If you have watched the movie Inferno, starring Tom Hanks, or the novel it is based on written by Dan Brown, then you must have heard of the Divine Comedy. It is one of the most important literature in history written by Dante Alighieri. It is a long poetry about his journey in hell, purgatory, and heaven. It did not solely reveal his imagination of afterlife, but his personal judgment and emotions were also projected in the poem. There are people in the comedy that Dante encountered or had never met in his life. Dante arranged different people into different parts of hell, purgatory, or heaven. We believe that the reasons behind are related to what he saw and what he has gone through in his life. Dante was born in a Florentine family of low aristocracy in 1265 and died in 1321. Although being one of the most famous poets in the late Middle Ages, his life in general is tragic. He lost his crush when he was young. He witnessed the glory killings in war, and he was used by the Pope and exiled from his motherland for the rest of his life. He spent 12 years to finish the Divine Comedy, a masterpiece that embodied his love and hatred towards the world. In this video, we will talk about how certain events in Dante's life connect to the content in the Divine Comedy and how the poem influences different artists in the Renaissance period. First, let's talk about Dante's lover, Beatrice. Dante met Beatrice when he was 9 years old and immediately fell for her. Beatrice appeared as a character in Dante's Divine Comedy. At the last part of Purgatory in the book, it was Beatrice who showed up and became the one who guided Dante through paradise, while his journey through hell and purgatory was with Virgil. After losing the love of his life in such a young age, Dante could not forget her even after 20 years. He still showed the great desire of seeing Beatrice again by setting her as the one who leads him through paradise in the poem. With the fact that he barely knew the woman, the image of Beatrice may only based on his own imaginations of her, making Beatrice the ideal model of true virtue and beauty in Dante's perspective. It can be suggested that, after passing through the ordeal and being ready to enter heaven, Dante's love towards Beatrice is no longer mortal. The Beatrice in the book has become someone Dante could only worship and admire, but not touch. With the Catholic background of Dante, we believe that Beatrice is actually a figure of Virgin Mary. From obsession to the realization that Beatrice is a representative of God on earth, Dante had created a clear ideal, showing the readers of how the Holy Mother is like from his perspective. During the 13th century, at the time when Dante grew up, war never stopped between the Ghibellines and the Guelphs, one representing feudal aristocrats, while another representing the wealthy merchants. They fight for the ruling of Florence, which makes the city a war zone. The losing party was often being exiled as a result. In 1287, Dante was 24 and joined the army of the Guelphs. Unfortunately, he was assigned to fight on the front line. At that time, he was exposed to immense danger and witnessed many crimson scenes in the war zone, which greatly terrified him. Such dreadful experience caused him to express his hatred and judgments towards the one who involved in wars and massacre in his Divine Comedy, including the leaders of the Ghibellines like Farinata degli Uberti and Cardinal Ottaviano degli Ubbardini. They both appeared in the City of Death in the sixth circle of Inferno, scorched by blazing sepulchres. The famous historical conquerors like Dionysius I of Syracuse, the Greek tyrant who conquered Sicily and southern Italy, and Alexander the Great, the ancient Greek emperor, also suffered painfully in the circle of violence in Inferno. They were boiled from head to toe in a river of blood. After the Ghibellines were finally defeated in 1289, peace emerged, and Florence was ruled by the Guelphs, the party who supports the Pope. However, in 1300, the Guelphs split into two parties, the Black and White Guelphs. The Blacks continued to support the papacy, while Dante, among the Whites, were opposed to papal influence, specifically the influence of Pope Boniface VIII. There is hearsay of the Pope Boniface VIII planned to take over Florence and expel the Whites. Therefore, the White Guelphs Council sent Dante and some other men to Rome as ambassadors to make peace with the Pope. At the same time, in 1301, Charles of Valois, brother of the King of France, called by the Pope to invade Florence, killed members of the Whites and destroyed most of their properties, including Dante's. His wife Gemma and their 3 children were removed from their home by a Black Guelph, Boccaccino or Handy. In 1302, the Black Guelph government in Florence was established. Dante was placed exile and later replaced by death sentence. Therefore, he has to live as a runaway and could never come back to Florence again. He began writing the Divine Comedy in 1308, a few years after his exile began. One of the main reasons why Dante wrote in the book is that he wanted to justify the behavior of Holy Roman Emperor Henry VIII of Luxembourg, who has besieged Florence, aiming to take back the city and reunite northern and central Italy. After being brutally exiled, he became the only hope of Dante to destroy the Black Guelphs and return to Florence, because Henry VIII's general policy was that political exiles should be allowed to return to their homes. Several content in the book has reflected such strong eagerness. For example, in Canto number 1 of the Inferno, when Dante is lost in a dark wood of error, his guide Virgil foretells the coming of Il Virgil, a greyhound who will destroy the wolf of avarice, the source of all depraved desires. The greyhound is referring to Henry VIII, and the wolf of avarice is apparently pointing to the Black Guelphs. Also, in Canto number 8 and 9, Dante and Virgil are prevented from passing through the walls that surround the lower hell, or city of this, by an army of ferocious demons. The force cannot be put down by human reason, as represented by Virgil, so they must wait for an angel or heavenly messenger to come and grant their access. The walls of lower hell represented the walls of Florence, and the lower hell represented Florence under the rule of Black Guelphs, a group of rebellious demons. With limited power he and Virgil have, they must wait for the angel, who represents Henry VIII, to help them. To express his hatred towards the Black Guelphs and the Pope, he has included certain names in the Inferno. In Gando number 8, a mud-encrusted sinner called Filippo or Handy appeared when Dante was crossing the river Sines. Dante was enraged and cursed him after knowing his name. He ended up tearing by other sinners and biting himself into pieces. He was actually the deceased older brother of Boccaccino or Handy, the one who expelled Dante's family from their home. In Gando number 19, in the 8th circle of Inferno, the Pope Nicholas III, who was buried upside down with his legs smoldering in flames, because he used his authority to give favors to his family. He mistook Dante as Boniface, who is going to take his place by saying, "Are you here already, Boniface?" The seat for Boniface was only reserved since he was still alive in 1300. Apart from the condemnation and punishment he gave to the tyrants and the corrupted popes, these names appeared in the Inferno was not solely out of justice, but reflected Dante's personal hatred towards certain people who have crossed him in his life. The work thus can also be seen as a personal retribution towards them. Other than his enemies, Dante had made a large scale of judgment on many other people in the Divine Comedy. For example, Achilles, who was a Greek hero in the Trojan War, is put in the 2nd circle of the Inferno, where the sin of lust is punished. Achilles is just shortly mentioned in the book, but the idea Dante was trying to present is still clear. Even though Achilles was a son of God and a hero with great ability and power, he was also a human conquered by lust. By putting a mythological figure into hell, every sinner could get punished in hell. Another example of Dante's judgment is about Count Ugolino, who was a ruler of Pisa in the 13th century, and Ugeri, who was an Italian archbishop. They are frozen in a hole in the second reign, the traitors to their country, of the 9th circle, treachery in Inferno, with Count Ugolino gnawing the nape of the archbishop's neck. Count Ugolino had ceded some castles to Florence and Lucca in order to pacify them from attacking Pisa. This act was regarded as a betrayal by the people in Pisa. At the same time, Count Ugolino was sharing his power of ruling Pisa with his nephew, causing him to conspire with Archbishop Ugeri so that he could take over all of the control of the city. However, Archbishop Ugeri later betrayed him and locked him into a tower together with his sons and grandsons without any food. they all starved to death. The description of the betrayal of Count Ugolino is less than that of Archbishop Fugeri in the Divine Comedy. Dante seems to deem that the sin Count Ugolino had by betraying the country is not equivalent to what he ended up with, and the involvement of his children is too ruthless. The moral standard of Dante can be seen to contain humanism, which is very rare at that time. Not only the choice of characters, but also the appearance of them is resembled to certain art pieces that Dante has seen in his life. For example, the Satan in the Inferno has 3 mouths from a poem. It said, in each of his mouths he was breaking a sinner with his teeth in the manner of a scourge, so that he made the 3 suffer at once. The description greatly resembled to the mosaic image of Satan covered on the ceiling inside the Florence Baptistery, who exactly has 3 mouths and crushing 3 different sinners at the same time. The baptistery was built in 1128, and Dante must have seen the ceiling when he was in Florence. Because of Dante's image-driven descriptions, many artists have sought to illustrate his text through different media. One of those is to visualize his poem with paintings. Giovanni di Paolo is a famous illustrator in 15th century who created 61 images to illustrate Paradiso from the Divine Comedy. One of the most famous among his works is The Creation and the Expulsion from Paradise. In mid-15th to early 16th century, another Renaissance painter named Sandro Botticelli even illustrated all 3 levels, Inferno, Purgatory, and Paradise, in Dante's Divine Comedy, in 93 pages of paintings, but only some of them were fully painted. For example, one illustrating candle number 18 in the 8th circle of hell, Dante and Virgil descending through the 10 chasms of the circle via a reach. The philosophy delivered from the Divine Comedy also incited new ideas of justice and authority. Being the first epic literature that openly judged and punished the Pope for their sins, the daring condemnation in the Inferno contributed to the challenge of the Catholic authority, which inspired the beginning of Protestantism by Martin Luther in 16th century.